Hi guys, and thank you for joining me for another video. Today I'm going to be talking all about my new hamster Brick. I'm going to show you her add-on pre-loved, which is the buy and sell site I bought her from. I also have her old cage and a couple of things the previous owners gave to me. And then I kind of just want to talk about how she's been settling in, and I'll show you her new home in the IKEA detail. Okay, so here is Brick's add-on pre-loved. Now, I choose to use pre-loved for a couple of reasons. So it is just a buy and sell site in the UK, and it helps to give a hamster that kind of needs one a better home, but it's also a good way to not financially support pet store breeding as well. So the ad here does just say hamster, but from the one picture they posted, you can tell that Brick is a Syrian. So it says male loving hamster looking for a new warm home. It didn't take me long to realise that Brick is in fact not a male, she is a female. With hamsters, it's pretty obvious, particularly with Syrians. And it also says hamster bottle, toy cage, feeding bowl and sawdust, which is exactly what she came with. Okay, so in terms of going to pick up Brick, I went about an hour and 20 minutes away. Now this is a little further than I was thinking I was going to be going originally. So when I got to their house, it was pretty obvious that Brick was the pet of the 3 children that lived there. There was one that was probably primary school age and the other 2 were early secondary school. Now I wouldn't say Brick was well looked after at all. When you see his cage, it'll kind of become pretty obvious, but there were some like serious issues with it, and I'm pretty sure the kids had probably lost interest, and that's why the mom was selling her. In fact, when it came to me actually taking the hamster, she called all the kids outside to come and say bye, and they really weren't interested. She kind of had to force them to say bye to him, and then they were calling him by different names, and I said, oh, does he have a name? And she went, oh, Lammy, Hammy, whichever. So I don't think there was a lot of love really for the hamster, which is unfortunate, but she's in a better home now. Okay, so let's take a look at Brick's older cage. This cage is exactly how it was when I picked him up. So let's take a look at kind of the cage itself and the condition it's in. So one of the first things I noticed when they brought this cage out to me was it has this pipe cleaner on it. I'm not too sure why. It seems to be holding 2 of these bars together. I haven't taken it off, or I didn't ask them why it was there either, because I wasn't going to be using the cage, but I just thought it was a little weird. I don't know whether it's there to kind of stop him chewing, because you can see just behind it, the bar looks kind of silvery compared to the black everywhere else, and that is because it has been chewed on. There is quite a lot of chew damage on this cage. If you come down to like the plastic base as well, there is quite a bit of chew damage. As you can see, that's literally just from his teeth just chewing up the plastic. Another thing I noticed pretty much straight away was a bunch of paint splatters like all over the top of the cage. There's some also inside, but you can kind of see all these white spots like scattered around. So when I went to the house to pick up the hamster, it was clear they were doing a lot of building work. It was pretty much a building site, to be honest. So it looks like they left Brick in a room that they were painting, and not only is the fumes from that bad, but they also let the paint drip on the cage, which is absolutely awful. Like, it's dripped inside the cage as well. And it's not just like a few drops, there are quite a few on here. Another thing I noticed that I found really gross is this water bottle. As you can see, it is green. Now this is just probably because it hasn't been cleaned very well. Now it is empty at the moment, but there was a little bit of water in there when they gave him to me. But the water did leak out in the car. But the fact that the water bottle is green is really, really worrying. So here's just a little close-up of the water bottle now. I've unclipped it. So it is completely empty, but like I said, that was just because the little bit of water that was in there dripped out in the car. But you can see it's totally green on the inside. So here's a look at the base of the cage now that the top is clipped off. Now I haven't removed like any toys or enrichment from the cage. This is literally all it was, which is basically what the cage comes with when you buy it from Pets at Home. So all Brick had in here was the wheel that was too small, and then this little purple house and food bowl that came with the cage when they purchased it. So the thing that really upsets me about this cage is how dirty it is. Like, particularly looking at this corner, you can see that it hasn't been cleaned very well, and like the base hasn't been cleaned well probably at all ever, because there's quite a bit of build up of a lot of nasty stuff around the outside. Here's a bit of paint that like dripped inside the cage, and you can also see some chew damage here. And going back to the paint, you can also see that this drop here dropped right on the food bowl. There wasn't any food or anything scattered around to keep him entertained. This little bit of food here is actually Harry's hamster mix that I dropped outside of the house to try and coax Brick out when I wanted to move him into his new cage. But you can also see a little bit of chew damage there on the purple house as well. So overall, it's really upsetting and disappointing to think that Brick has lived in here. I'm not sure for how long either. To an extent, I understand people buying smaller cages because, I mean, the pet store sells them. It even labels this one as a large, so you think you're giving them a good home. So I understand making that mistake at first. But one of the things that really bothers me about this is the state of the cage in terms of how dirty it is. The fact that they've let paint fall on the top and the corners of this cage are just so dirty. It's obvious that the care for this hamster wasn't very good. Okay, so let's take a quick look at the stuff that they gave me. So the first thing is this snowflake bedding. Now this is something I did used to use in the past. I took it, but I don't intend on using it. It's something I don't use anymore because I don't believe it to be safe. The second thing they gave me was an ice cream tub completely full of food mix. Now there was a lot of food mix in here, and I remembered the ice cream tub lid was like really loose, so I was looking for something to like weigh it down with in the car so it didn't spill everywhere. And I must have left this on the side of the road when I picked him up because I can't find it anywhere. Now luckily I did ask her what brand it was, and she told me they buy it from Wilko. So I did look into getting some more because obviously I kind of wanted to transition Brick slowly across. However, there wasn't any at my local store and the delivery would have been over a week. So I did make a bit of a mistake there, and he has gone straight on to Harry's hamster mix using like the little bit he had in the food bowl in the cage as the only transition food. This isn't ideal and I do feel really bad for it, but unfortunately I left the food on the side of the road, and yeah, bit of a mistake there. And the last thing they gave me again is something I will never use, and I've not even seen this before, but it is this. Now this isn't like other hamster wheels because it can't go in every direction. It can only really go forward and backwards. And there are wheels on the bottom here just to help it move along. But I've never seen anything like this. It's got like a little steering wheel and you can kind of lock it so they can only go in like a circle. I don't know where they bought this from, I didn't ask, but they gave it to me. And again, something that's going to go straight in the bin. But I just thought I would show it because I think it's kind of funny and I've not seen it before. So there's the motorbike wheel. Next up, I just want to give you a quick little tour of Brick's new cage. So starting on this end of the cage, we have the end with the deepest area of bedding. This is a mix of teabag bedding and KT Clean and Cozy. So up here we just have a cardboard hide that's just like a box that I cut out a little hole in. A couple of chews up there. We've got quite a few grassy things in here. There's a little grass nest there, a tunnel, and then a bigger hide there. We have a bendy bridge. This wasn't in at first. It was one of the kind of few changes I made. I didn't want to change too much at first. But when I set up the cage, I was kind of expecting a male Syrian, which from what I know, they're smaller than females. And I think I was a bit optimistic with the size of the things I was putting in. So I had to make a few switches and the bendy bridge was one of them. And it's got a little chew on it there. We have a tunnel that's half buried, which is where I believe Brick is sleeping now. A little dinosaur chew. And then this thing here is a pumpkin tea light holder. Now the past week, we've had a couple of really hot days. So I was putting in some cool ceramic items. The weather's kind of gone back to normal now, but I left this one in because I noticed Brick was using it and I didn't want to make too many changes too quickly, so I just left that one in. So this is where the bedding in the cage changes over to Megazorb. Now this is something I haven't been using for a really long time, but I'm liking it so far. I've got a pretty deep area in this space here. We've got a sand bath at the back and that has reptile sand from Pets at Home in. Then we have a Trixie 28cm wheel. This is a wheel I haven't used in a really long time and I did have to find it out. But I really like this one, great size for Syrians. And then I just have a little wooden log there connecting the sand bath and the Megazorb. So I have put in this bit of millet. Now I find millet to be pretty popular with hamsters in the past. However, I don't believe Brick has touched this yet and it's been in a good few days. I'm not sure if she'll take to it or not, but I'll leave it in there for a little bit longer anyway. Got a couple of chews. Now this is one of my favourite Syrian sized hides. This is just again another grassy hide, but I really like this one. So next to that we have this little wooden house. It's one of my favourites. You can't really see it very well because of all the bedding piled up in front of it, but trust me, it's a really nice looking hide. And then in front of that we just have the water bowl, the food bowl, and then lastly the Living World glass water bottle. In terms of Brick settling in, it went really differently to how I was expecting. When I brought Polo home, he pretty much just burrowed straight into the bedding and started acting pretty normal. This isn't the same for Brick. It was really quite strange. I waited till she was going to wake up to move her in. However, it got to 11 o'clock at night and I'd been up since 4 AM in the morning to go to work because I work really early. So I was super tired and she just wasn't waking up. So I decided to move the purple house from my old cage into the Detolf. Again, nothing happened, so after an hour or so I did have to pop off the lid of the house because I was starting to get a little worried. All night she didn't move from this purple house. Like, it was getting quite concerning. It just wasn't what I expected at all. I turned off like the main light in my room, but I did kind of want to stay awake until I'd seen her eat and drink, and she was pretty close to the water, like she wasn't like super far, so I was hoping she was going to do it. On a couple of occasions I did see her like go to move, but she didn't quite commit to it. And then I noticed her pick up a little bit of forage mix because I had scattered some around the cage before I'd put her in there. So that was kind of the only food I'd seen her eat. But unfortunately I was just super tired, so I did fall asleep. And when I woke up the next morning, she wasn't super far from the purple house, only a few centimeters really, and sleeping out in the open, which I found super weird. I'd never seen a hamster sleep out in the open like this unless it was really hot, and it wasn't like hot at all. But again, she was just kind of like lay out in the open, which I found super strange. After I started to move around, it did kind of wake her up. I noticed she went into one of the tunnels I'd half buried, and she did sleep in there for the rest of the day, which was a lot better. Fortunately, her behaviour didn't stay like that for too long. I've had her for just over a week, and every night kind of involved a little bit more exploring. On her 4th night she finally used the wheel, and then when I look at last night compared to like her first night, it's just a complete difference. She was exploring the entire length of the cage. She was even burrowing like right to the base of the cage as well, which was so nice to see. So that's just a little look at buying Brick and kind of her first week home. If you do have any questions about buying from buy and sell sites or just Brick in general, please leave them in the comments. But other than that, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching. Bye.